Hey everyone. Recently, our Shure rep from McFadden Sales came into the store. We got a chance to sit down and talk about some of the classic products and some of the new products that Shure has available. Some of the legendary stuff like the SM7, the SM58, and the SM57, and a new product called the MV7. In order to not lose any of the important information that we went over, I've split this video up into a small series. Each one is going to focus on a different topic of the microphones, some traditional uses, what you would expect to hear and see, and some non-traditional uses, and just a whole lot of really good information that you can use for things like picking your next microphone, getting started with home recording, getting started with a YouTube channel, just like the one here, or getting started with something like podcasting. And hopefully this video gives you some good information on choosing the right microphone for your project. With all of that, here is my conversation with Ryan from McFadden Sales and Shure Microphones. What about somebody who's getting started out? You know, I just started my new podcast this month, and I'm learning how to run this thing. And I see this SM7, and this is what everybody's talking about, and I see all of these accolades for what it's been used for and how it's been used, but maybe I'm a little intimidated by this thing. You know, this is the industry standard, this is the big deal, and you know, it does have, the price tag is a little higher than the SM58s. Right. So what if I am a little intimidated by this microphone, and I don't feel that I'm there yet? I noticed we have this new this MV7 here. Right. I personally don't know a whole lot about it, but it looks very similar. Is this an alternative to the SM7?
Yeah, good question, Johnny. So and honestly, kind of, great segue and lead in, because the MV7, it is, there are some aspects of it. We'll get into all the cool details about the new mic. But it definitely has that sound signature that the SM7B is known for, that smooth character and that full sort of sound that you expect out of the SM7. Shure introduced that in the MV7 with some other cool features. It's at a lower price point, so some people that are, like you just said, are getting into podcasting, or they're just starting their streaming channel on Twitch or something like that. This is a lower barrier to entry. Right. You don't need to be an experienced audio engineer to get up and running with the MV7. You don't need to necessarily get into the whole world of audio interfaces and having to learn about what sample rate is and bit depth and preamps and that's all fantastic, and you should learn that stuff. Sure. But for someone that is, they're just dipping their toes in the water, MV7 that's the go. It's a great go-to for those people. Now, it doesn't necessarily have all of the like the air suspension mount and all of those things. It's a more forgiving microphone in that regard. But as far as the sound signature of from the SM7, MV7's right there. Okay. It gets you that level of performance that you're expecting, and it gives you some cool user friendly features that I think a lot of people would really appreciate. Sure. So I mean, we'll get right into it. Yeah. I mean, the MV7, cool thing about it. It is a USB microphone, and there is a companion app that Shure has. Okay. It's the Shure Plus Motive, the Motive app, and it's free on Shure's website, and it's used with all of the other USB mics that Shure offers. There's the MV88 Plus. There's an MV51 microphone. There's an entire line of Motive mics, but the app itself is great with the MV7. Because there's some cool little things that you can do with the mic. Like there's an auto gain feature where you don't even need to worry about your decibel level. Literally you can do an auto gain feature, do your stream, do your recording, whatever sort of production you're doing at that time, and the microphone will adjust to your voice automatically for you. Now the SM7B doesn't do that. It's a different thing altogether, right? Because you're pairing it with a really killer preamp or something, right? But the MV7 gives you that's just a really nice usable feature. Yeah. It's a set it and forget it, Ronco, which is thing.
Fantastic, especially like you said, if you don't really know a lot about audio engineering and you don't know about all of these different things, there's a huge value in being able to just plug it in and know that it's going to do the job that it needs to do, and that's one less thing you have to worry about while you're starting your channel. Yep.
And to go even further with that, so that's auto gain, but depending on your environment, you may want to tailor the sound of the microphone to your audience, right? So say, you're in a really bright sounding room and you need to dull, the tone a little bit. There are voicing controls on here. So you can set it to like a dark, a natural, or a bright. sort of voice setting, if you will. And I mean, the benefits of that, you can tailor the microphone to where you're using it, and it's still like the SM7B. There's still the off-axis rejection, right? So you still want to be right in front of the microphone, and it's going to laser focus on that signal, that source, and everything going on around the microphone. It won't be picked up as easily. Okay. That's one of the things that is still transferred from the SM7B to the MV7. So real-world example here: if you're a PC gamer or a streamer, right, and you have a mechanical keyboard, all of those clicks, those satisfying clicks that, I'm a PC user myself, and a serious gamer, but, that will not make it into your signal.
Okay.
And so with the voice setting, the auto gain, you can be off to the races really, really quick.
That's awesome.
Right? And that's using the USB, connection on the microphone itself. To go even further, there are advanced settings, so when you get, you dip your toes into the engineering waters, and soon you find out what an EQ does and what a compressor or limiter does to your tone. All of those settings are available in the Motive Plus app, right? So you can go in and completely tailor, the mic to what you need, right? And that's the whole thing with the MV7. It's we want to get you killer sound, amazing sound quality with very little resistance.
Okay.
You don't need to be an expert, in audio production or anything to get up and running with it.
So, am I also correct in assuming here then that with the MV7, so I'm just getting into podcasting or whatever my application is, I buy the MV7, right? We've kind of talked about how it works really well for somebody getting into this, somebody who's learning, somebody who doesn't know all the ropes and everything. So maybe a year goes by and I now know a lot more about audio engineering. Do I need to upgrade from this point? Or is this still going to be a practical microphone in a more professional environment?
Yeah. Okay, good question. So I mentioned the USB connection earlier. The MV7 also has an XLR mic connection, traditional 3-pin, cable. And you can connect it to an external preamp, interface, mixer, what have you. So you can, if you're an individual streamer, you're just getting started, you want a really great mic, go with the MV7. And then, hey, you have some friends coming over, you want to start a podcast, you'll need some sort of external mixer or preamp or interface or something to do that, but you can add another MV7 as, your secondary microphone or interview mic, right? So you can expand out, and I mean, heck, if you have, 8 channels on your mixer, use 8 MV7s, it's a great standard. But then at that point, if you need that higher level of production where you want, all the other features like the air suspension and the electromagnetic resistance, and it rejects all the interference and all that sort of a thing, you want to have a higher level of preamp, as well. SM7B is definitely the go-to, and it's still the standard.
Awesome.
In that regard. Yes, there is a difference there between the two. They're similar sound signature from the SM7B into the MV7, but they're it's a different application thing. I would still say.
Let's circle back just real quick to the cancellation, the field of the microphones. So when you're starting out your podcast, there's a million microphones on the market, and often condenser mics are recommended for things like this, which seems a little counterintuitive for the exact reason that we're about to talk about here. So you're doing your podcast at home. Your kids are home with you. You have a pet at home. You've been stuck in your house, and you don't really have a lot of control of your environment.
Right.
A car goes down the street. It's loud. You're just in the middle of your take, and this loud engine is behind you, or one of your kids is screaming, or your dog's barking, or something like that. So the condenser mic is going to pick up everything within the room, and then probably some. What is that field? How is that helping this situation? What are we blocking out? Or are we going to lose that that background noise? Like if my dog's barking on the other side of the house, am I going to be picking that up with these microphones?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. So condenser microphones are amazing. They're still definitely use them
Right.
in a studio
Sure,
environment.
for sure.
And you can use them at home. You know, if you have a quiet home and you're doing Zoom calls, a condenser microphone is great. I mean, the condenser microphones in general, they give you a lot of detail.
Right.
They're also a lot more sensitive.
Okay.
So if you think about that, where you want, like, you know, just really hi-fi detail, you know, if you're recording an acoustic guitar or, you know, a really sensitive, you know, vocalist or something like that, condensers are, there's a place, you know,
Right.
for that, and they're fantastic. But in the instances and the examples that you just brought up, Johnny, I mean, that's exactly why the SM7B, you know, is the go-to for that. So, you know, and I'm not going to say with 100% certainty, I don't know how loud your kids are, how
Well,
loud
that's
your
fair.
dogs are, right? But the idea is that you're mitigating the extraneous sounds in your environment. You know, here's another one. So forget the kids and the dogs for a second. You know, if you have an air conditioner or a fan in the room, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you're using a condenser, it'll pick up everything in there, and that's the blessing and the curse,
of course,
you know, about the mics in general. And you know, there's applications for condenser mics, but SM7B is perfect, and even the MV7 is perfect for, you know, ladder environments.
Okay.
And you know, and here's a pro tip: you want to have the microphone, the MV7 or the SM7B, close to you, right? So that way, it's only picking up what's in front of the microphone.
Okay.
So, and I've done tests with this. We can do snap tests. You know, have the SM7B or the MV7 live, and we can do snap tests around it. And if we're behind the microphone, you know, the microphone's picking me up here, and I'm doing this, you can't even hear the snaps.
Okay.
So, if you're on a very important Zoom call,
Right.
or you know, a Teams meeting or something like that, that's huge. You know, and to go even further, you know, one of the, you know, little adages I always, you know, recommend to folks is, or tell folks is, you know, a bad video with great audio is a heck of a lot better than a great video with terrible audio.
That's very true.
You know, it's you know, it's the reason why, you know, when movies added real soundtracks to silent films, that's, you know, that was amazing. Right. You know, the music and the audio, that's what conveys the story, you know, to get esoteric and metaphysical, you know. But yeah, I mean,
it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, especially if you don't have. Well, that's really cool. So that, like, that shows us a lot of what we can do with these microphones.
Yeah.
You know, the MV7 is a good entry. But it's not an entry level microphone. It is a professional microphone. I want to make sure we touch on that because, you know, we've said those words a couple times, entry level and making things easier. But I really want to say that this is a professional level microphone. It's just, you guys have done a great job at making it easy to get into, to get started. It's an all-in-one. It's a kind of a plug and play. If you've gone beyond a little bit and you know a little bit more about the opposite end, and you know a little bit more about mixing and engineering and everything, the SM7 gives you some, I don't want to say more, different control.
Just opens the doors.
Yeah, it's different control.
Right.
And then the 58 and the 57, I mean, they're so versatile that, like I said, we're using them for our speaking on this as well. And normally you'd see this pushed up against a guitar cabinet. So there's a lot of different uses, and there's something at every price point that is professional.
Yep.
That's the one thing I really want to make sure everybody understands too, is that we're talking about, you know, saving a little bit of money to get the 57 and the 58, but we're still talking about an industry standard, professional grade microphone.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, I mean, the MV7, it gives you professional level sound, but it has that entry level ease of use.
Right.
Is how I would describe it.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, the app itself, you guys will need to check it out, and, you know, you probably, you know, show it in the, you know, cutaway here or something, but it's fantastic. I mean, it gives you everything that a professional audio engineer would want to see on a companion app for a microphone, right? And it's, hey, you know, it's gonna be around for a long time. The MV7 is here to stay. You know, it's gonna be a new standard. Yeah, I would say definitely.
That's awesome. Whether it's again, you're new, you're just starting to get into it, and you're not thinking about the room that you're in, and you're not thinking about the control, and you're not thinking about soundproofing and things like that. Or maybe you know those things already. You know that your most ideal situation is going to be a booth where there's nothing where you can control entirely, but you just can't. Yeah. You know, I've lived in a one-bedroom apartment where I had to record in, and that's the only thing I can do is record in that apartment. So when you can't control the room, you need the mic to do some of the work for you. And it sounds like that's exactly what these are doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to kind of draw another parallel. I mean, you know, a carpenter or a handyman, they're not only just going to use a hammer the entire time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you want to choose the right tool for the right job. You want to choose the right tool with the application use that you're going to be doing. It all of that stuff translates to the world of audio.
Right.
And me being a guitar player, Strats and Les Pauls are wildly different animals.
Absolutely.
They both sound amazing,
Right.
but there may be a certain time where you want to sound like Angus Young. And there may be a time where you want to sound like Jimi Hendrix.
Right.
And you don't, obviously you can mix and match. It's all about experimentation and having
Sure.
fun, but let's be real here. If we want to achieve a certain goal, we need to use the right tool for the right job. And